All right, so let's talk about the scariest 7 seed in NBA history. Oh my gosh, the NBA should be scared. Oh my gosh, this is the best team on earth. Steve Nash, Coach of the Year, Kevin Durant, the GOAT, Kyrie, they just held him back. But they just lost to the Celtics 115 to 114. Kevin Durant had probably one of the worst games of his career. And Kevin Durant made, honestly, such a questionable call at the end of the game. To shoot a fadeaway contested three-pointer. But I don't blame him. I blame Kyrie. So much to say about this game, and I will be brief. So I don't fully blame Kevin Durant for that shot. I just wish he would have gone, well, I'm not rooting for the Nets, but I wish he would have gone for a higher percentage shot if I were a Nets fan. Because that fadeaway one-legged shot when the defender is so close up on you, he almost fouled you. That wasn't the shot. Now, if you made it, hey, Kevin Durant's made crazier shots. But that wasn't the highest percentage shots in a game where Kevin Durant just hasn't been on it, number one. And Kyrie Irving was like, it was a black hole. He got that basketball, like y'all let him score 39 points. He was 12 or 20 from the field. And he started to feel it. And he held that ball for too long at the end. It came down to a last-second shot. Kyrie hit a three-pointer to put him up 114 and 111. They then go back down, and Jaylen Brown gets an easy layup. So the Celtics didn't come back. No timeouts were called. The Celtics didn't come back. And then Kyrie dribbles the ball for almost half of the shot clock. He gives it to Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant has 9-8 seconds to try to do something. He could have drove, but the defense would have pushed him out. But he could have had another angle to get one of his patented mid-range shots, get separation and pull up. But he missed it. The Celtics get the rebound. Jaylen Brown gets the ball on the side. He passes it to Marcus Smart, who did an up fake. Two defenders came to him. Marcus Smart had a clear open lane to the basket. He had an open shot. But Marcus Smart is not the offensive player that Jason Tatum is. And when I saw Marcus Smart was wide open, I was like, yo, what are you doing? I wasn't inflammatory with it, but I'm like, the game is about to end, bro. What you about to do? And he happened to get it to Jason Tatum, who easily blew past Kyrie, who did not know what was going on. He laid it up right as the buzzer sounded. Game over. Game over. This is the team you're supposed to be scared of. This is the scariest 7 seed. This is the team that, quote unquote, the Bucks tanked against the Cavaliers so they wouldn't have to play the Nets. This is the team. Listen, I think the Nets fans are amazing. I honestly do. I think Nets fans, they're one of the best fan bases, especially on Twitter. I'm a big Twitter Spaces user, and they're one of the best fans on Twitter because I think they're reasonable. I think that they're smart basketball people, and they've been in the trenches, man. They were around when the Nets weren't about nothing. They were around after that crazy trade when the Nets acquired Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. They were there for the aftermath of that. And now you have Kevin Durant, one of the best players in the league. Kyrie Irving, a clutch performer, and he's one of the best players in the league. So I understand the excitement. I understand them being happy. And a lot of these nonsensical takes about, the Nets and how powerful they are as a team, they're not even coming from Nets fans for real. They're coming from the media because the media is so lazy. There is nothing that the Nets showed me in the last few games. We can go back front to a couple games ago to the Pacers. Bro, do you realize that the Pacers were god-awful this year? And the Pacers very well could have beaten the Nets on the last day of the season on last Sunday. Do you realize that? Were y'all watching the same game I was watching where the Nets, the Nets were up by what? They were up by 20 points. And Tyrese Halliburton and Buddy Hield and them mounted a comeback until it took Kyrie Irving starting to cook for y'all to win against a lottery team on the last day of the season? Then y'all, and in the play-in tournament, y'all have a 40-point quarter, and the Cavaliers still were keeping it within 17-13. Then they made a run and almost won the game, but it took Kyrie and KD to save you. And Nick Claxton made some good shots. Bruce Brown stepped up. That happened. But it took your two ISO players to save you against the Cleveland Cavaliers, who choked the lead to the Hawks, and they're now sitting at home. God bless them, had a great season, but they're not in the playoffs. Are you kidding me? And today, they couldn't handle the physical defense of the Boston Celtics. It took an ungodly game, a 39-point game from Kyrie Irving, where he was back in his bag. He was in his duffel bag. Kevin Durant doesn't show up. And what happens? They lose. I heard all week, Robert Williams is out. The interior defense is going to be terrible. The Celtics aren't going to be the same. Offensive rating, defensive rating. But Robert Williams don't play defense for the Nets. Who's helping the Nets defense? Because what I saw two straight layups where Jaylen Brown got to the basket with ease. And I saw Jason Tatum get to the basket with ease. Your boy Kyrie right there saw him lay it up. He had a front row seat to see a historic game winner. Jason Tatum's first game winner, the first Boston Celtics game winner since Paul Pierce in 2010. He had a front row seat for it. I just don't know what to do with the Nets, man. The Nets aren't good. They're not a good team. They are predicated on Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving having 40-point games, and in 2022, that's not sustainable. You need a team. With the Celtics had a team effort. Just at the end of the day, the Celtics had a team effort. When you look at the stats, you had Jason Tatum 31 points, Al Horford 20 points and 15 rebounds, but Robert Williams is gone. Al Horford stepped up. Jaylen Brown, 23 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Marcus Smart, 20 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. Teamwork. You had 4 players that scored over 20 points. You look at Brooklyn. Kyrie Irving, 39 points. Kevin Durant, 23 points, 9 of 24 from the field. Nick Claxton had 13 points, but missed the free throws when it mattered. Goran Dragic had 14 points, but why were they doing a small ball lineup when the Celtics never went small? I mean, theoretically speaking, Al Horford is like 6'9", 6'10". So you could say he's a small big, but they didn't intentionally go small and say, hey, we're going to go small for switchability. Ime Udoka didn't do that. Ime Udoka's coaching circles around Steve Nash. Mike Breen said, Steve Nash is fired up. He wants to be out there on the court. Steve Nash is basically a player on the bench. He sits there and lets Kyrie and Kevin Durant dictate the offense. He's a traveling fan. He just sits there. No adjustments. No defensive adjustments. Nothing. No offensive adjustments. Just, hey, Kyrie here, Kevin Durant here. That's not winning basketball. But I sat here and heard y'all all week, all last week, all after the Nets won the Cavaliers game. I heard Chris Broussard on my favorite show, First Things First. The Nets are going to win the championship. You have to have a team. We've never, outside of Akeem Olajuwon back in the 90s, we've never seen one single player or just 2 players and a bunch of basically scrubs win a championship. We never seen that. And Akeem Olajuwon had a team that was built well around him that first year before he got Clyde Drexler. I've never seen anything like this before in my life. The Nets are so overhyped, and all of the glaring issues came out in the final 15 seconds. Lack of defense, no plays being run. It's just Kyrie or Kevin Durant here. Everyone just sitting around watching them operate. That's the problem. And I just want to just say this, and I'll let you go. All right, I will move on. Why? I heard all these talking points about Robert Williams. And this isn't an original thought. I was listening into one of the net spaces, and one of the users said this, and I took a look. I'm like, you know what? They're right. Why did the Celtics win the rebounding battle 43-29? But Robert Williams isn't there, right? Robert Williams is a rebounding monster, defensive monster. Why didn't they win the rebounding battle if Robert Williams was just such a big blow to the Celtics? And he was a big blow, don't get me wrong. They want him back. Like Robert Williams is needed. But why didn't they take advantage? You have Andre Drummond, who is one of the best rebounders of all time legitimately. Why didn't y'all win the rebounding battle? I'm looking at Drummond's stats now. Drummond had 4 rebounds. He played for 17. He played for 17 minutes. I'll give him that. He played for 17 minutes, had 4 fouls, but primarily the 4 fouls did that because he got 4 fouls in the first half. But Steve Nash took Andre Drummond out so he could go small. And you had Kyrie Irving and Goran Dragic out there for the majority of the game. Nick Claxton got 8 rebounds. I'll give him that. Nick Claxton was out there. He was the switchable big. He got 8 rebounds, but they were still out-rebounded 29 to 43. Offensive rebounds, 14 offensive rebounds. 14 offensive rebounds. What does that tell you? I'm just saying, what does that tell you at this point? I see rebounding as a hustle stat, and I just feel as if the Nets don't be hustling, man, and they just put all of their hopes, like they gamble on Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant having a good game. And Kyrie did, Kevin didn't. Now, do I expect for Kevin Durant to have a woefully inefficient game when he's a historically efficient scorer? I'm not stupid. I don't expect that. I think that the series is going to be 5 games for the Celtics. I think that the Nets might win this next game. They're going to make it interesting. They're going to split. They're going to steal home court advantage from the Celtics, and then we're going to see what happens in Brooklyn. Possibly. But I don't think that Kevin Durant's going to have a woefully inefficient game again, but he has to adjust to the pressure that they put on him. And like I said, like Kevin Durant still had an okay game. By his standards, it was a bad game. But I just saw Trae Young get 8 points and hit like 2 field goals with the pressure of the Miami Heat. Now, the Celtics were not playing football with the Nets. I promise you they weren't. They were getting physical, but the Heat were tackling people, like they would have had penalties, like with some of the stuff Kyle Lowry was doing, and some of the stuff that Jimmy Butler was doing, all them folks on the Miami Heat. For some of them stuff they were doing, they would have had flags on football, pass interference, like roughing the passer. Like, they would have been calling penalties on the football field on what the Heat were doing. The Celtics were not playing that physical. They were bodying KD up because they, like, that ball and out on Kevin Durant on that last play, I was surprised the refs didn't call a foul. They really swallowed their whistles. Because I thought on that, I think it was Tatum on him doing the ball denial. When Kyrie had the ball, Kyrie was trying to get it to Kevin Durant. But what happened was Jason Tatum denied Kevin Durant space, so he couldn't get a clean catch. And if Kyrie threw it over there, most likely Jason Tatum would have deflected it because he was attached onto him. So that forced Kyrie to try to make something happen. Then Kevin Durant got separation and got the ball. And then, he was covered. He was smothered. But they also trapped Kyrie, and Kyrie avoided the trap, and that's when he passed it to Kevin Durant, when Kevin Durant got separation. I'm telling you, like this notion of, hey, we're going to get 1 or 2 superstars, pair them together, and put minimum guys around them, I'm so glad that era is over. That era is over. It's time to have well-built teams. It's such a dearth of talent. You have so many great coaches in the league now, and Steve Nash, unfortunately, is not one of them. Ime Udoka got you, Steve Nash. Maybe he should have been the coach of the Nets. If he was the coach of the Nets, I'd be scared. Because a good coach, plus Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, I'd be scared. But there was nothing in this game today, including Kyrie Irving's 39 points, that should have any team in the NBA playoffs scared. No one. The Bucks shouldn't be scared. The 76ers, the Heat. No one in the top 4 should be scared of no Brooklyn Nets. And the Boston Celtics definitely should not. But I can't wait for the rest of the series. This is going to be one of the more entertaining series. And this could eclipse the Grizzlies and the Timberwolves. But we'll see what game 2 looks like. Because I think that the Celtics and the Nets going to run it back. It's going to be interesting. But there's nothing scary about it. And I think that this game today, and mind you, Monday, people are going to give their takes and all that. I think this game today shows you that the Nets are mortal. You cut them and they bleed. They bleed just like how Jason Tatum was bleeding. You cut them and they bleed. That's what this game showed us all. And we need to look at what's in front of us, not at the potential what the Nets with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving can be this year. The year is over for them. The Celtics are going to soundly beat them because the Celtics have all the tools to.